In the heart of the African savanna, where towering trees brushed the sky and rivers glowed like woven silver, lay the village of Oko. Life in Oko was simple, yet the air was filled with stories passed from one generation to the next. Among them, none was more captivating than the tale of Ikenna, a young man whose heart seemed far too vast for the confines of his chest, overflowing with a depth of emotion that set him apart from all others. He became the village's golden boy, the one who would always offer a hand, give his last coin, share his food, and never ask for anything in return. When the elders were too old to tend their farms, Ikenna would rise with the sun to work their fields. When travelers passed through Oko, Ikenna's home was their sanctuary. He was, in many ways, the light that kept the village warm. But the light has shadows too, and Ikenna's brightness began to attract things darker than he could have imagined. One late evening, as the last embers of a village bonfire flickered out and the moon watched from above, a man appeared at the edge of Oko. His name was Obinna. Tall and draped in dusty travel-worn robes, his face was marked by time and hardship, but his eyes glinted with a sharpness that Ikenna, in his open-heartedness, failed to notice. "I seek shelter," Obinna said in a voice that carried both weariness and hidden intent. Without a moment's hesitation, Ikenna opened his home. "You are welcome here," he said, offering food, water, and even his bed. Obinna accepted with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. Days passed, and Obinna lingered. His stories of far-off lands enchanted the villagers, and Ikenna was glad for the company. Obinna helped with small tasks, enough to avoid suspicion but never too much to seem invested. He stayed long enough that the village began to murmur. Why hasn't Obinna moved on? What is he really after? The villagers whispered, but Ikenna, blind to the whispers and the growing darkness around his new friend, brushed off the concerns. He's a traveler who needs help. What harm is there in helping someone in need? One evening, as the sun set behind the hills and the village gathered for a feast, Obinna approached Ikenna with a peculiar request. "I need to leave the village for a few days," he said, "but I have no money for the journey. Could you lend me your oxen to help me carry some goods to the next town? I will return them, I swear." Ikenna's first instinct was to hesitate. The oxen were his livelihood, the animals he used to plow his fields and earn his bread. But Obinna's request, wrapped in flattery and promises, tugged at Ikenna's heartstrings. Against his better judgment, he agreed. "I trust you, Obinna," he said, handing over the reins. "Bring them back as soon as you can." But Obinna did not return the next day, nor the day after that. Days turned into weeks, and soon Ikenna's farm, once thriving, fell into disrepair. Without his oxen, his fields went unplowed. He asked the villagers for help, but their kindness had limits. His debts began to pile up, and the easy smiles of his neighbors faded into cold stares. No one spoke openly, but the message was clear. Ikenna, the man who had always helped everyone, now had nothing to offer, and people, it seemed, were quicker to remember favors owed than favors given. Weeks turned into months, and Ikenna realized the bitter truth: Obinna was not coming back. The man he had sheltered, fed, and trusted had disappeared, taking Ikenna's livelihood with him. One cold night, Ikenna sat outside his crumbling hut, staring into the fire. The warmth did little to soothe the chill in his heart. He had nothing left. No crops, no money, no trust. His kindness, the very thing that had defined him, had been twisted and used against him. The words of his grandmother echoed in his mind. Kindness is the glue that holds the world together. But she had never warned him that too much kindness could also tear a person apart. The elders, sensing his despair, approached him. Their voices were heavy with both sympathy and the weight of hard truth. "Ikenna, the oldest elder, began, you have always been a good man. But in this world, goodness must walk hand in hand with caution. There are those who take advantage of an open heart. And sometimes the cost of kindness can be your very soul." Ikenna looked up, his eyes hollow but still flickering with the remnants of hope. "So what do I do?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Do I stop being kind?" The elder shook his head slowly. "No, but you must learn this. Kindness must be tempered with wisdom. Help those who deserve it, not those who demand it. Know when to give, but also when to guard what you hold dear. In the months that followed, Ikenna rebuilt his life, brick by brick. The village, moved by his plight, offered help. But Ikenna was different now. He still gave, but not as freely. He helped, but with discretion. The open-hearted boy had grown into a man who understood that while kindness could heal, it could also destroy if given without thought. Years later, when travelers passed through Oko, they still heard the tale of Ikenna, the man who had been too kind and how that kindness had almost cost him everything. But they also learned of the lesson he had taught the village, that even in a world that desperately needs good people, goodness without boundaries can be a curse. So what do you think? Is it possible for someone to be too kind? Could Ikenna have protected himself while still being a good man? Or is it a cruel twist of fate that kindness can sometimes lead to ruin? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in Ikenna's shoes? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Folktales of Many Tribes for more stories that make you question the world around you, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, remember, kindness is a gift, but even gifts need to be handled with care.